3 locations in Camden, Big Sandy, and Brewston. Today's program after this.
Apex Bank of Camden, proudly serving the Benton County community since 1931. In recent years, through growth and expansion, we've taken that same local community spirit into other markets. Today, with over 20,000 customers across Tennessee, our business philosophy remains the same. Local people making local decisions, serving our friends and customers, and investing in the communities that we serve. Here for you yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Apex Bank of Camden, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Operation 7570. Hope you're doing well on this Saturday morning. Glad you've joined us, whether it's by WRJB Radio 95.9 up on our Facebook page or joining us by WRJBradio.com. Great to have you with us, and we want to say congratulations to the Camden Lady Lions for their big victory last night in the consolation game of the district basketball tournament. This means they'll advance next Friday night to a regional game down around Gibson County, possibly Martin Westview. Those two teams meeting tonight to determine the championship of that particular district. So we'll have more information about that at the first of the week. And also tonight, we'll remind you in the championship of the district, Camden will be playing Waverly tonight out here at Camden Central High School. That game should get underway around 7:15 or 7:30, depending on how the consolation of the boys matchup comes tonight. But been great tournament action all week out here at CHS, and a lot of good teams have been in the tournament. First time we've hosted a tournament since 1970, but congratulations to the boys and girls of CHS. Now in our studio this morning is an alumni of Camden Central High School, Mr. Justin Hargrove from the Benton County Extension Service. Justin, welcome to the program. Always a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you, Flash. It's always a pleasure to be able to join you here on the program and talk about all the things that's going on within the community and surrounding communities as well. So
never a dull moment with Extension, is there?
No, sir. There's always something going on, and it's always changing too.
Yeah, absolutely. It really, really is then. And as we get into our program this morning, let's talk, first of all, let's give some background. I've known you and your family all my life, of course, but what about some background in this? Agriculture items, has that always been a passion of yours?
Yes, sir. It's always been a passion of mine. From the time that I was little bitty, I guess as soon as I could walk, I was following my granddaddy and my father around, out feeding cows and fooling around with them, working on fences. Some of my earliest memories is walking with them up and down fence rows. I was too little to really do anything, but I could tote a fencing bucket full of pliers and steeples and hammers and stuff. So that was back before we had a four-wheeler or side-by-side, so I was the mule, more or less, and would tote the fencing bucket with all the equipment in it, and just kind of learn about maintenance and upkeep and getting my hands dirty, and always enjoyed it too. It was always fun.
And after high school, went on to University of Tennessee at Martin. Is your degree in agriculture?
Yes, sir. My degree's in agriculture business. I went to UT Martin in 2008. Joined the Alpha Gamma Rho Agricultural Fraternity. Spent some time there. Served on the Student Government Association there at Martin as a representative for the College of Agriculture and Applied Sciences, and was a die-hard Aggie while I was up there.
After the degree, come back and get a job with the University of Tennessee Extension Service, actually UT-TSU Extension, and and how many years now with Extension?
Let's see. It'll be 9 years with Extension this coming June. I started out in Obion County, had 2 years in Obion County doing 4-H and adult agriculture work. Spent a lot of time up there in the row crop area, quite a few beef cattle up there as well. And then when Mr. Jeff Roach left from here in Benton County, I was fortunate to be able to transfer and come back home.
How big is agriculture in Benton County right now?
It's quite large. It's our county's largest industry, really. We've got several folks that are involved in agriculture. I think the last statistics that I was looking at, we've got somewhere in the neighborhood of 420 farms here in Benton County. And that ranges drastically in the type of demographic that you can expect with those farms. We've got folks raising corn, soybeans. This year we actually had a little bit of cotton here in the county. First time in a long time that we've had much cotton to speak of. Of course, beef cattle. We've got several goat and sheep producers, poultry, and then some commercial vegetable production as well. So it's a very diverse kind of demographic that we've got within agriculture in Benton County.
3 or 4 months ago, I think it was the last regular season football game that Camden played down at Gibson County. Went down to that area, and traveling through McLemoresville into Gibson County down to that area, I didn't realize how big cotton still was back in that part of West Tennessee.
It is huge. Once you get over into Carroll County and then on over towards the Mississippi River, especially those more southern counties, there's still quite a bit of cotton being grown in the state of Tennessee. And the fact that last year's cotton prices were pretty good, that just helps to perpetuate the matter. But we're tickled about that.
Well, in this time of COVID, and you mentioned prices right now, and let's talk about prices for farm products, of course, and how COVID has affected it. So where do the farmers stand right now as they're getting their goods to market and the prices they expect and the impact COVID has had?
Yes, sir. Well, COVID's had quite a bit of impact, not only on the farmers themselves, but also on consumers. Any of y'all that go to the grocery store and pick up a jug of milk or pick up a pack of ground beef have surely noticed that inflation is literally eating our lunch right now. Prices have gone out the roof on that, and a lot of that comes down to processing bottlenecks. It's started to alleviate quite a bit here lately, but back in 2020 and 21, we saw quite a few processing bottlenecks, particularly in the proteins industry, talking about meats, whether that be beef, chicken, or pork. You've got just a very small handful of processors within the United States that actually process that, and they process the majority of the proteins for the country, and that's JBS, Cargill, places like that. And not that there's anything wrong with those big companies. They employ a lot of people and keep a lot of people fed. But whenever you have to send home all of your employees and shut down a company that is maybe feeding millions of people, we see quite a bit of bottlenecks and prices go up as a result. And that has impacted agriculture actually in some positive ways. It's increased a lot of interest in trying to address some of these supply chain weaknesses and fix those for the future. And it's also increased the interest of consumers buying direct from farmers. So we've got several farmers within Benton County that sell direct to consumers. Folks like Mike Katrutza, he's seen a lot more folks coming out there to the U-Pick patch and purchasing from him. We've seen a lot of guys that raise beef cattle that have started selling those beef cattle directly to the consumer, either through custom exempt processing or USDA processing, and that's allowed them to kind of cut out some of the middleman in some cases, and to be able to increase their overall revenue coming through their farm, which can oftentimes be a pretty handy thing. Now, as far as commodity prices, corn, soybeans, cotton, we've seen those going up a fair bit as well. Real curious to see what it's going to do this year with some of the bottlenecks that we're experiencing now at some of the ports, is kindly and the tariffs that our administration has put on some of our fertilizers. We're seeing a lot of those fertilizers coming from Russia, and therefore we've got tariffs on those that's caused fertilizer prices to go out the roof. It's going to be approximately double from what we had last year. So that's going to impact what farmers are able to plant and how much that they're able to produce based on their input costs. So I'm very curious to see how that impacts what we're having to buy in the store this fall. Time will tell, but I'm sure that the inflation that we're seeing is probably something that's going to continue for a little while.
As time goes along, of course you mentioned Mike and some local processors of meats here that have established in recent years. Do you think we may see more local people trying to get into these type of businesses?
We've already seen it. We're seeing folks that are prime example, Buckaroo Processing, which is on 70 West going towards Brewston. They just opened up, I believe it was this past year. That's Jody Wimberly from here in Camden, BJ Sauls from over in Brewston. They've got a processing facility there that is really cranking out a lot of meat, and it's most all of it is locally raised and going to local buyers as well. So they've opened up their processing plant. I believe it's Pierpoint Brothers Processing in Big Sandy. They've opened up and they've been doing a lot of deer processing. I believe they're also getting into processing hogs as well. And then as far as on the farmer side, we've had several that have adopted selling those meats direct to consumers. Mr. Tommy Bain's been doing it for quite some time, Mr. Terry Waters for quite some time. My family farms actually has taken up selling direct to consumers. So Hargrove Farms, we're selling beef direct to consumers. We've been doing that for the past 2 years. And several others have been picking up on that. It's an excellent opportunity to be able to kind of bridge that gap that we saw back in 2020 whenever the supply chain was failing us. It's a good way to be able to bridge that, get folks the meat and proteins that they're needing, and not only that, but to be able to get them a high quality protein source at a reasonable price, and hopefully more quality to it than what you might be able to pick up in the store.
And I would assume as well that with these businesses like we're talking about, local businesses, if you shop with these particular individuals or businesses, the revenues, it has sort of snowballing effects even for our local
Yes, sir.
economy.
It absolutely does. Whenever you're spending money at home, that money tends to stay within your community, and it's just like if you're purchasing something from Mr. Mike Katrutza or Mr. Tommy Bain, then they're going to be turning around and spending that money at the co-op to go back and produce more product, and that money turns over quite a bit, and so we get a multiplier effect from that. And any time that we can do something like that is bolstering businesses within the local community, because when you get right down to it, agriculture is a business. Whenever you can bolster those local businesses, that's not only helping that business, but it's helping the folks that they're doing business with. That's going back to help the schools, the parks, and everything that we enjoy here locally.
Local processing plants that have come in, whether it's hogs or beef or whatever it might be, when they come into existence, are there permitting applications they have to go through, maybe at the state, local, federal level?
Yes, sir. There's lots of red tape that goes with that. We've seen that working with Mr. Wimberly and to some extent with Pierpoint. Within processing, you've got a few different levels of processing. There's custom exempt, which is state inspected. It's also USDA. USDA inspector has to come in and check everything out as well. But custom exempt processing is done under the assumption, and it's a legal assumption at that, but it states that the animal being processed is being processed for the owner of that animal and is not for retail sale. So let's say, for instance, if I take an animal to the slaughterhouse, I get it processed, custom exempt, that the meat from that animal is for me and my family. I cannot go out here and sell it to someone else. Then you've also got USDA processing. There's a whole lot of red tape that goes into USDA processing. In a situation like that, you have a certified USDA inspector that stays at the plant from the whole time that they're slaughtering that animal, and he's basically supervising, making sure that everything is in accordance with federal code. As a result, it's a good bit more expensive because you're having to pay for that USDA employee. But once you've got an animal that has been USDA certified, that animal then is legal for retail sale. So a lot of our processors here in West Tennessee do custom exempt. It's probably it is by far our most common form of processing and sales. But we do have a few that are doing USDA processing for retail sale. I believe that Buckaroo is doing USDA. I know at one time that they were. I think that they still are. I understand there was quite a bit of headache that went along with it, but it is available for folks that want to sell meats retail. In the event that you're selling an animal through custom exempt, the way that you get from a standpoint of a producer, you're selling a live animal to your consumer. The consumer understands that they're purchasing a finished live animal. Then that producer can haul that animal for the consumer to the processing plant, and once it's processed, the consumer goes and picks it up because, as it were, they were the owner of that live animal when it arrived, and so they can take the meat home and have it for themselves.
Yeah. Now, how do these local plants, that process the meat, how do they get access to the meat, to livestock, beef or cows or hogs? How do they get that into their business?
As far as, could you repeat that question?
Well, I mean, if I'm a hog producer, do I just go to them and say, I want to sell you a hog, I want to sell you a cow, or how do they get the meat in order to just get into the processing process?
In some cases, those processors will buy that animal direct from the producer or the farmer. Oftentimes, the way that it works is the farmer is selling it before it ever gets there. So it's already a sold animal before it gets there. They've already got a buyer before they go in. And the processor is essentially the middleman. They're the one that's breaking that animal down from a live animal down to retail cuts. So oftentimes the processor doesn't necessarily own the meat that is going through the processing facility. They're just processing it for the owners.
Okay.
So.
And when these particular businesses, when they come to you for advice or need your help, what role do you play as an extension agent to help these type of businesses?
Kind of the switchboard. That's what I have found, that I'm kind of like the old telephone switchboard operators. They'll come and they'll sit down with us and say, all right, we want to open a meat processing business. What all do we need to do? And from that point, I get them in touch with the regulatory side of things. See, with UT Extension, we're not in the regulatory side. We're on the education side, and apparently the switchboard side as well. So whenever they come in, the first thing I'll do, I will get them in touch with someone from the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. They're the regulatory agency at the state level. Some folks, the Tennessee Department of Agriculture will work with them to help them meet the codes and meet regulations. I can also get them in touch with some of our folks from the Center for Profitable Agriculture. That is run through UT Extension. They can come in, sit down with them, help folks to develop a business plan for their processing operation, go through and look at all the little small things that they may not have considered that could cause problems or that could come up. That way they've got a full and total game plan. They've got a business plan set forth that should be able to function and operate, and then we'll work with them along with the Tennessee Department of Ag and the USDA to get through the red tape.
You mentioned Tennessee Department of Agriculture, United States Department of Agriculture. Your agency, you work very closely with these organizations and other groups out there as well.
Yes, sir. We work with a whole bunch of different folks. There's really too many agencies to start naming them all, but from a regulation side, those are usually the ones that we look at whenever it comes down to opening any kind of processing facility, whether that be a processing facility for meats or for processing hemp or for processing vegetables. We deal with those agencies typically.
Well, I tell you, time is moving rather quickly with our discussion this morning. We need to take a break right here for the fine folks at Apex Bank. Stay with us because we'll be back with more on Operation 7570.
For more than 85 years, Apex Bank of Camden has built a tradition of local people serving local people. Although there have been changes over the years, this one thing remains the same. Hometown people that are your friends serving you every day to meet your financial needs. We want to see you grow and prosper. And when you ever have a need, you'll get personal attention right here at home, not in some far-off corporate office. Number one in customer service. Apex Bank of Camden, Benton County's best bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
We're back on Operation 7570 this morning. Mr. Justin Hargrove from the UT-TSU Extension Service Office here in Benton County is with us right now. Welcome back to this portion of our program. And we have a lot of talking points. Don't know if we'll get to them, but I just want to go ahead, Justin. What do you want to bring out this morning that is of importance to local people here in Benton County?
Oh, man, there's a lot of different things that we can discuss, Flash. One thing I do want to point out real quick is some of the stuff that we've got going on with our office in regards to youth development and 4-H. Whenever I first started in Benton County, my position was dealing quite a bit with youth development, 4-H, as well as agriculture. I've shifted more to an adult agriculture role. We've hired Miss Crystal Floyd as of, I believe it was October 1st. We got Miss Crystal Floyd on board, and then we've also got Miss Leslie Woods. Both of those are our 4-H agents now. They're handling the youth development here in the county, and they're doing an absolutely fantastic job. I've heard several teachers and parents bragging on them about the work that they're doing. Both of them have got a real passion for working with young folks and encouraging them to go forth and accomplish great things. This past week, Crystal and Leslie had a fantastic program. As you know, we have our county public speaking contest every year. The best of the best in Benton County come out to that to compete and practice their public speaking skills in front of their peers and their parents. And this year, as always, we had some excellent speakers that have gone on to the sub-regional contest. Well, this year was Benton County's year to host the sub-region contest, and Crystal and Leslie worked with Coach McDowell at the high school to set up the sub-region contest, which included, let's see if I can get them all, Benton County, Henry County, Houston County, Humphreys, Stewart, Dixon, and Montgomery counties. So we had the top public speaking students from 7 counties all converge here in Benton County at the high school for the regional or sub-regional public speaking contest, and it was incredibly well run. We had several agents that attended that complimented Crystal and Leslie on the great work that they had done, how well organized it was, how well set up that contest was. We did have one of our students here from Benton County that placed first place at the sub-region, Miss Annalee Travis, a 4th grader here from the county. She did a great job, got first place in her age division at the sub-regional level, so we're tickled to death about that.
Yeah, congratulations. And I've judged many times the contest out here. And those kids, 4th grade kids on through 7th, 8th grade, I tell you what, they do a lot of research on their speeches.
Man, they do a ton of research. And the kids put a lot of work into it, but the teachers and the parents oftentimes encourage them and push them. And of course they're 4-H agents as well. I appreciate the work that they're doing. That public speaking is one of those things that it's a life skill that is truly invaluable just about regardless of what field that you go into occupationally. So really glad that those kids are doing so well with it, and glad that our agents are doing so well with it.
I remember back years ago, and I think you've heard the story, a man named Steve Hargrove, who I think we're familiar with. He was in 4-H. He would do speeches. I remember him coming down to the old studios on South Forest Avenue to give a speech.
Yes, sir. He loved 4-H whenever he was growing up. You mentioned before we got started today, Mr. Walter Moore. He thought Mr. Moore hung the moon, and Mr. Moore pushed Dad to get involved with 4-H and stay active with it, and he came away with a lot of life skills and great memories, and I hope that that's the same kind of legacy that we're able to bring to our youth today as well.
In addition to the speaking, the 4-H speaking contest in a recent week, congratulations, Mr. Travis, as well, and all those that participated. But poster contest, you had a poster contest not long ago, and
yes,
some great kids did some great things there.
Absolutely, and the poster contest is run similarly to the public speaking contest. Each classroom has the opportunity for those students to put together posters and compete at the classroom level. Those that win go on to the county level, and then those that win the county level move on to the regional level. Now, there's 31 counties at the region that these kids are competing against, and of course, thousands of kids per county. So there's a lot of competition within this program. But the 4-H poster contest is kind of like building just a small billboard for 4-H, advocating for 4-H and advertising it. Oftentimes we'll take those winning posters and put them on our 4-H camp T-shirts. But we had 3 winners at the county level. We had Mr. Joseph Hatley in 4th grade, Audrey Matlock in 5th grade, and Jaden Bradford in 8th grade that were your Benton County 4-H poster contest winners. Now, those posters went on to the region office and were judged down there, and we actually had 2 of them that will advance to the state level. And so that is, I believe, Joseph Hatley and Audrey Matlock that'll be going to the state level. Their posters will be presented and put up kind of in a gallery at the 4-H Congress, which is coming up in March. So that's a big honor. We're tickled to death about those kids doing so well in that contest, and really looking forward to seeing how they do at the state level.
Congratulations to those kids. And you mentioned 4-H Congress. I know
Yes,
in years
sir.
past, Mr. Hargrove, you've been part of this as well. We've had some kids, Riley comes to mind, of course, that's done great things at the 4-H Congress and gone on to great things in 4-H.
Yes, sir.
Just higher up above Benton County.
It's a fantastic program that's available to 9th and 10th grade students, as well as if we've got any students that want to compete in public speaking at the high school level, the state contest for that is held at 4-H Congress as well. It's a great opportunity for kids to be able to go to Nashville, meet with their elected representatives, their state representatives, their state senator, learn about our system of governance, and just kindly get involved with some of those civics and see how it all works.
Now, Leslie down there, she's been with you about 3.5 years, maybe going on 4 years now. You added Crystal, I guess, about 4 months ago, as we were talking about, dealing with 4-H. I know you and Heather did that for years and years, still involved to a great extent, I understand that. But by virtue of the fact we have Leslie and Crystal working more and more with the 4-H kids, how has that helped you and Heather in your other duties and responsibilities?
Well, that's opened us up to be able to work quite a bit more within the fields of agriculture and family consumer sciences, respectively. Right now, Heather, she's got a whole lot on her plate. Of course, she's serving as our county director. She's also serving as the interim county director in Decatur County while they search for a new one down there. She's on several boards and committees throughout the county, and including, I believe, the ones that are looking at potentially a new office space for us and several other entities here in the county. And that has allowed us to be able to do more things. For instance, towards the end of the program, we'll talk about a course offering that I've got coming up within agriculture for beef cattle producers. Later on this summer, we're hoping to be able to present some courses for estate planning and farmland legacy classes. Be able to present courses in regards to farm financial management. Hopefully have some gardening courses coming up as well. It's freed us up a lot of time to be able to do some of those programs that there's been a need for, but there just hasn't necessarily been time for. Those 4-H positions that Leslie and Crystal are doing, that takes up a lot of time out of a person's schedule, and they're doing a great job with it, but whenever you're a split position, you can only do one well, and the other one's going to kind of suffer. So that's kind of allows us to now be a little bit more masters of our trade rather than a jack of all trade and master of none.
Yeah. And at the same time, the mission, give me the mission in your own words of what Extension Service is all about and how that mission may have changed in recent years.
Yes, I'm glad you said in my own words, because I hadn't got the one from the university memorized. I'd probably get my hand slapped for saying that. But the mission, as I see it, is for an extension agent. Our role is to serve as kind of a mediator between the University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture and the research that they're doing and the community. And so notice I didn't just say farmers, it's the community in general. We've got a lot of researchers that are studying anything from fruit and vegetable crops, beef cattle, sheep, family consumer sciences. We've got a lot of folks within the economics department that are studying, they're doing lots of studies on economically distressed counties or at-risk counties and ways that we can improve the economic situations of those counties. That's where family consumer sciences comes in oftentimes. And without the extension agent, those researchers, they're folks that typically either stay in a field or stay in a lab and do their studies. They're not real good at getting that information out to the folks that need it. And that's where extension comes in. We are an extension of the university to take the research that is pertinent to the community and deliver that to the community so that they can live better lives and come up with some real life solutions for them in their daily endeavors.
Now, I've said this to you and Leslie and Heather and Miss Amy. By the way, a shout out to Miss Amy down there because the smiling face you'll see as soon as you enter the office, and a shout out to her this morning too.
I'd like to provide a shout out for Amy as well. We had our ag committee meeting earlier this week, and Heather had us all doing introductions, and Amy introduced herself very appropriately. She introduced herself as Amy Bork. She's our secretary, admin, and the glue that holds the office together. And there's a lot of truth to that. Amy is the one that keeps us all from losing our minds most of the time, so we're very appreciative of her.
Yeah, and what I was getting back to, my question was going to be going over the activities, the mission statement. I think everybody, whether you realize it or not, male or female, regardless of the age, I think everybody in a certain way is affected by a program of UT Extension.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, and that's what we try to aim for, is to be have programming that's relevant to all groups of folks, to all demographics. We hope to be able to have something that'll be of benefit to all of them, regardless of what their interest is. So.
Yeah, and I know you get to serve on a lot of boards and committees by virtue of your position, as do all the people when 4-H and Extension down there, Heather and Miss Leslie, and of course Crystal, Amy. Of course, you serve the community in other ways, and that's that responsibility. And we appreciate all that y'all do outside of Extension work.
Well, thank you. We enjoy, I can't speak for them, but I certainly speak for myself. I enjoy doing all of that. It's fun to get out in the community and meet and work with folks and see what ways we can make our community a better place.
Waterways and lakes and rivers, that's a very important part of our landscape here in Benton County, of course, and I know in recent years, you've been brought on board as part of a fisheries project, a fisheries program. Can you talk about that a moment or so?
Yes, sir. I can talk about that all day if you'd like. Recently, I say recently, I think it was in 2019, my regional programming, or my regional director, asked if I would take the regional fisheries position. So in addition to being the Benton County Extension Agent, I've got 31 counties in West and Middle Tennessee that I serve as a fisheries agent for. I field lots and lots of phone calls and emails about managing different vegetation and weeds growing in people's ponds, managing fish populations, how to grow bigger fish, and just general pond health, taking care of ponds that may have leaks or some erosion issues with them, and some of the engineering aspects that go along with that. A pond is just like any other ecosystem. There's lots and lots of moving parts. If you've got one moving part that breaks down, that whole ecosystem can break down and fail. And so that's things that I have to try to keep in mind and try to convey that to some of our pond managers, particularly those that are looking at really raising trophy bass or really great sport fishing ventures. For instance, I run a shock boat. It's a fee-based program that we do for folks that are wanting to perform surveys on their ponds. I can take a shock boat, we'll go out there, I can put some electrodes in the water, we'll run some electrical current in there, and what that'll do, it'll stun those fish, it'll bring them to the surface, we'll scoop them up in a net, take them over to the bank, and get a representative sample of what their fish look like in that pond. We can figure out what the population ratios are, sport fish to bait fish. We can figure out what the relative weights are. Are those fish healthy? Are they overweight, underweight? What do we need to do to get them where they need to be? And then write them a written management plan. And I do that all over West Tennessee. Matter of fact, last week I was down in Wayne County. A week before that I was down in Shelby County looking at some ponds. I keep the roads pretty hot in that regard.
Does a pond, like our house, every now and then our house may need renovations as time goes along after it's built, but does a pond, after a certain length of time, after it's first established, Justin, does a pond need maintenance work?
Absolutely. Oftentimes we'll get into a situation where the edges of those ponds will start to fill in either from leaves or grass that's been blown in there from the lawnmower, and over time the sediment will build up in those ponds. As that happens, the edges of your ponds get more shallow. As your edges get more shallow, sunlight can reach down there to that sediment. once you've got sunlight hitting that sediment, whatever seeds are in there are going to germinate, and so you wind up with oftentimes situations with lots of aquatic weeds, aquatic vegetation, mucky banks, things of that nature, and eventually you'll have to renovate in a situation such as that. Other times, whenever a pond is built, if we haven't got proper compaction, we can wind up with some leaks, water seeping through the levee. Ponds wind up having a hard time holding water, and at that point it's hard to be able to support a fish population. Other methods of renovation, we may have situations where levees fail completely. You wind up with stuff washing out. Your spillways can wash out. Pipe spillways, stuff can leak around those. If we're talking about renovation on fish populations, which is one of the most common ones that I do, we like to try to drive home the importance of harvesting fish out of your pond. A lot of folks have taken the Hank Parker mentality of catch and release. It's a fantastic thing in a large reservoir like Kentucky Lake, but whenever you're talking about a 1 or 2 acre pond, that is a finite resource. It's a small ecosystem. If you're constantly putting fish in and never taking any fish out, you get overpopulated, you wind up with lots of stunted fish, and it becomes nearly impossible to grow any kind of a trophy fish if that's your goal. So typically I'll recommend to folks, if we're talking about managing a pond for bass and bluegill, we want to consider removing about 20 to 25 pounds of bass per acre per year. Usually you're going to be looking at removing those 8 to 12 inch bass. Those are the ones that are the most voracious predators. They're kind of like teenage kids. You just can't feed them enough. You get those out of there, that allows your other fish, it puts a little bit more, put your forage fish, your bluegill and stuff, a little bit more at ease, and can allow for better growth rates. And then on bluegill, we can get overpopulated with them too, but we'll not get too much into that topic yet. Like I said, we can go on about it all day long.
One other question which comes to mind right now, a few years ago, as you know, Carroll Lake had some problems over there going into McKenzie over there. What's the status of Carroll Lake right now?
Well, I'll be honest, I'm not real sure. I've not dealt too awful much with Carroll Lake. The thing of it is, that one's a TWRA managed lake.
Sure.
And so TWRA kind of does their own thing. I mostly just help folks with private ponds, private lakes, municipality lakes, things of that nature. TWRA, they've got their own biologists, their own engineers, and their own way of doing things. And best as I'm aware, that lake, they've got that spillway repaired. They've got that lake filling back up. And I expect that with the way that it dropped out, we had quite a bit of vegetation that was growing up in the bottom of it, which is going to provide a lot of structure for it. I would figure that the fish population in that, as well as the relative weights of those fish, I would expect it to be pretty good here in the very near future.
Okay, then. Hard to believe it's been several years ago since that first happened over there, and I think first of all, we had some flooding situations. Heavy downpour rain caused that.
Yes, sir. I think, was that the 2010 flood that blew that out?
I can't remember, to be perfectly honest.
It was around that time.
My first inclination was, how can a flood where, you're raining, you're getting water from the sky, how can that do damage to a facility like that then?
It's absolutely incredible the amount of force and power that water has got. Whenever you've got that much water that is coming off of the land surrounding that lake and pushing into that lake, there's so much pressure that it can and oftentimes has in other places caused some pretty catastrophic failures of those levees. The levee is essentially an earthen dam, and just like other times that we've heard about dams breaking at places, there's ways that those levees can be compromised. And there's ways that you can prevent those levees from being compromised as well. One of the best ways, and then I'll stop talking about levees, but one of the best ways that you can prevent a pond levee from being compromised is to try and keep trees and large vegetation from growing on those levees. Because anytime that you've got a tree that grows on a levee, those roots are pushing through the soil, it's pushing those soil particles apart. And that is that soil should be compacted really well to hold together. If those roots are pushing that soil apart and breaking it up, it's kind of like having a crack in your dam. Sooner or later, it can cause it to fail. Particularly if that tree dies and those roots rot away, then you've got channels in that soil, and water will eventually find those and can rut that right out. So,
Well, we're getting close to the end of February, as you know, and March is
sir.
coming around. People's looking forward to the spring, and you have some programs coming up in the month of March you want to
we
talk about
sure
a minute
do.
or two.
Yes, sir. One of the program I'd like to really advertise for the month of March is our Tennessee Master Beef Producer program. We're going to be offering that Master Beef Producer course. It's a 2-day course. We're having it in partnership with Carroll County. You've got to attend both days in order to receive full credit and certification for this course. The Master Beef Producer course is geared towards anyone that's raising beef cattle and that's interested in learning more about their cattle, more about their operation, and ways that they can improve their operation. Along with the certification, if you qualify for Tennessee Ag Enhancement, which is a state cost share program, it will increase the amount of money that you're actually eligible for within Tennessee Ag Enhancement. Producers that have got Master Beef Production certification, they're eligible for up to 50% cost share on certain items. But this course will be held on March the 5th and March the 26th. On March the 5th, we're going to be at the Carroll County Civic Center. We're going to be getting started up at 9 o'clock. We're going to be studying, the first presenter that we've got is Dr. Lou Strickland. He's our UT Extension veterinarian from Knoxville. He's going to be coming down, and he's bringing a dystocia model with him. So dystocia is whenever you've got a calf that's coming and you've got to pull it because it's not coming properly, something that may be breech or something of that nature. He's got a full-size model cow. It's awesome. He actually hauls it down here in a livestock trailer. He's got it on a dolly where he can roll it out. And but it's a full-size model cow with birthing canal and everything in it. He's got a dummy calf that he puts in there. It's a big rubber dummy calf, puts it in, and does demonstrations on actually how to put on OB chains to pull the calf out and how to properly deliver a calf in the event that you've got to pull one to prevent you from causing any kind of injury to the cow, the calf, or yourself. It's an excellent presentation. Dr. Lou's a fantastic presenter. Really love watching him to present this program. After Dr. Lou gets done with his presentation, we've got Miss Tori Marshall. She is our managed specialist with the University of Tennessee. She covers West Tennessee, and farm financial management is her forte. She's all about economics. She's all about spreadsheets and keeping up with the farm financial planning for the fiscal year. So as I mentioned to you earlier, agriculture is a business, and with that you've got input costs, and then you've also got income, and she goes over quite a bit on keeping up with that, how to manage it effectively, and how to make that stuff work for you come tax season and come time for marketing as well. After that, we've got Dr. Forbes Walker. He's a really cool guy. He's originally from Scotland, came over here to the University of Tennessee, and I reckon that we've got him for the rest of time. He does great. He's cool to listen to because he's got that Scottish accent and everything. But he works for UT's Biosystems Engineering Department, which is a fancy way to say he is a hyped up soil scientist. He's going to be talking about different feeding systems. Some of these feeding systems that he's going to be presenting about can be cost shared through Tennessee Ag Enhancement, and we're going to be discussing ways that these systems can reduce soil compaction, reduce soil erosion, and as a result of that, improve your overall pasture quality while still effectively feeding your cattle at the same time. And then after that, we've got lunch, and I'll be wrapping the day out with a presentation about forages and pasture management. All right, then we go to March the 26th. That's where we're going to be down at Cox Farms down in McElwain, Tennessee. Well, I know we've got several of our listeners that are familiar with Cox Farms. They've got a wonderful pumpkin patch and agritourism enterprise down there. They've also got a pretty impressive beef cattle operation. We'll start the day out talking about some current industry issues. I'm hoping to have some representatives from the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, Farm Services Agency, and possibly the Farm Bureau as well to talk about policy development and things that are coming down the pipe in regards to that. Then we're going to go outside and do some demonstrations as far as low-stress cattle handling, how to move cattle through a working system in a manner that is safe primarily for the producer as well as for the cattle. Anytime that we're getting cattle up to have to give them vaccinations or to doctor something, if you've got a 2,000-pound animal in a confined space that you're working with, there is a potential for it to become a dangerous situation. The less stress that you put on that animal, the safer it's going to be for the animal and for you. So we'll be talking about how to ensure that we're moving those cattle through the facility in a manner that is not stressful for them. And of course, the less stress that the animal's got, the less stress the farmer's going to have working with it. After that, we're going to be talking about herd health and nutrition. Then we're going to move into end product with Mr. Kenny Herndon from over in Carroll County. He's going to be talking about the end product that we're getting from these animals, which is, of course, beef. So we're going to be talking about the different cuts of beef, how to raise animals to ensure that we're getting the highest quality that we possibly can out of them. And then we're going to go down to Buckaroo Processing and do a walkthrough tour of the processing facility there. So should be a fantastic educational opportunity. We're really looking forward to it, and hope to have some folks to sign up and take advantage of this course offering. It does carry a fee with it. It's $125 to sign up and take the course. That helps to cover the meals that we'll be serving whenever we present the course, helps to cover the material that you'll be getting as well. But I'd highly recommend it to anyone that's interested in raising beef cattle.
And for more information, I'm sure you can go to the Facebook page or give your office a call.
Yes, we've got the Benton County Facebook page, and our office phone number is 584-4601, and we'd be happy to take phone calls from anybody that is interested in participating in that course.
Been a pleasure having you on the program today, and as we close, I just want to say as the month of March approaches, that is also a time of the year we recognize Extension Service, UT-TSU Extension Service Appreciation Month coming up, whatever the official title is, and looking forward to that, and thank you for the work you do down there.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the work that you do representing so many entities within our community, and just being a fantastic source of information for our folks in the community.
Well, maybe in the month of March, as we get on into March, maybe about the second week, I think I got a program scheduled the next couple of weeks, but maybe as we get in, we can have Leslie and maybe Crystal, maybe Amy all to come down as well.
Yes, sir. I believe that they would be tickled to come up and to speak with you.
You tell them we'll try to mark it down and get something set up.
All right, I'll certainly pass it on.
Always a pleasure to see you, Mr. Hargrove. Thank you for being here.
Pleasure to see you as well,
do.
Mr. Melton.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us on Operation 7570. We've been brought your way today by our good friends at Apex Bank. Stay tuned next for Luke Crutchfield and the bargain auction. We'll see you next Saturday morning.
Apex Bank of Camden, proudly serving the Benton County community since 1931. In recent years, through growth and expansion, we've taken that same